In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a class from start to finish. So this class is called rectangle. So I'm going to show you like the different components that makes a class. So before we used to make a class just like as a title. We didn't focus that much on the class itself. So in this lecture, we're going to go in detail about how to create a complete class from the beginning to the end. And we're going to use rectangle as an example. Now, rectangle, when you hear about the rectangle, automatically it comes to your mind the length and the width. So these two are the main attributes or the variable we're going to be using. If I ask anybody to draw a rectangle, the first question is going to have, okay, what is the length, what is the width? So that's why we start with a variables, the attributes of this class. So we're going to declare them as a private. Most of the variables are declared private, most of them. I mean, you can declare them as public, but they're supposed to be private. That means they can be accessed only through the class itself. They cannot be accessed outside the class. That's why we declare them as private. So both are integer. So let's say the length and then the width. Okay. And then the second one is what we call the constructor. So the constructor. So what is the constructor? So we're just going to give like a brief definition and then we're going to go over it in detail later on. A constructor basically is a type of method that does two things. It has two functions. The first one, it initializes the variable because this variable, length and width, so far they don't have any value. So the constructor will assign values to them. That's the main function, one of the main functions of the constructor. The second function is it allows you to create an object out of this class. I'm going to show you later on how to create an object in the second class. So how do we create a constructor? It has to be public, because how are we going to create an object outside the class unless it is public? So public, and then there is no return type. You just put the name of the class, in this case rectangle, and then you can create as many constructors as you want. So for this example, we're going to make only one. So we're going to have two parameters, which is L len and then width. Now we're going to assign these two parameters to our variable. So we're going to put length equals len, and then width equals w. So what is that supposed to mean? Okay, now I'm not finished with this class, but I have to create the second class to show you why do we need the constructor. So let's create another class. We're gonna call it, let's say, tester. That's where the main method will be located. We talked about the main method. We said this is where the program is executed. So we're gonna have a main method. Now let's create, let's say, an object of type rectangle. So to create an object, so you use the class name rectangle, and then you give a name to your rectangle. Let's say pool, and then you put new rectangle. Remember, like the scanner, we did it the same way. How to create a scanner object? That's exactly how we do it. And then you put the parentheses. Now, what values do I have to put in here? Now, the constructor will determine what values to put in here. So if you go to the constructor, because this is the constructor, to create an object, you need to have a constructor, and the constructor, as you can see right here, it accepts two numbers, two values, and integer. The first one, len, is what? Is the value you're going to assign to length, and the second number is the one you assign to width. So here, if I put, for example, let's say 5, 8. What does 5 mean? What does 8 means? It means 5 is the length. How do I know that? Because the constructor assigned the first number to length. Now, if I switch length and width, then the first one will be assigned to width and the second one to length. So whatever the constructor says that's what's going to happen. So here we created an object called pool that accept two values. The first one 5, that means that's the length 5, and the width 8. Okay, so that's why we need the construct. Okay, and then after that we're going to create what we call accessor method. So accessor method, as the name implies, it allows you to access this variable, because remember we said that these two variables are private. That means how you're going to access them if they are private, especially outside the class. You need accessor method. Accessor method are methods that allow you to access this variable. So usually we call them get something. You don't have to call them get something, but just by convention. So you put public, it's going to return integer, because the length is integer and width as well. So we're going to put get length, then empty parentheses, and then you return the variable, return length. Okay. So for example, if I go to the tester and then I put, for example, system out print line pool, which is the object, get length. Now if I try to access length, look what's going to happen. Remember, length is a private. You cannot access outside the rectangle class. So if I try to do that, it's going to say an error that say length has private access. You can't do that. So the only way you can access length is by using the accessor method. Okay, so that's why we create accessor method. And the same thing for the width. So we're going to get width, return width. Okay, now you can also change these values. What about if you want to change the values? I made a mistake and want to change the value of length and width. So we use what we call the modifier method. As the name implies, they allow you to change. We usually call them set length, set width. So set length, and then they accept like a new value. So let's say L or LE. So that means if I call this method, I'm going to assign this new value LE to length. Okay, now let me go to the test and show you how it works. Let's say, okay, we created an object called pool with 5 and 8. 5 is the length, 8 is the width. Now let's say for whatever reason I made a mistake, I want to change 5 to 6. So to do that, you cannot just go back and change it. So you have to use the set method. So I can do something like this: pool set length. Look, it accepts a number. It says 6. That means now the length is not 5 anymore, it is 6. So that's why we use this method set length to change the values in case. Sometimes you may not need it, but this is available for you in case. So we're going to do the same thing for if you want to change the width. Okay. So these parameters, you can call them anything. As long as they are integer, it doesn't matter how you call them. So we're going to put width equals W. The same thing if I want to change the width. So right here, pool at set width, let's say 10. That means I change the width to 10. So now I don't have 5, 8 anymore, I have 6, 10. So I have to be careful here. Okay. Now let's finish our rectangle class. So after that, what other method we may be interested in the rectangle class? Like when you think about the rectangle, what kind of things you can do? Like creating or calculating the perimeter, creating the area. So this some of the method you may be interested in. So we're going to put, for example, a perimeter is the method. How do we calculate the perimeter? We know the formula. So you put return 2 times length and plus 2 times width. Okay, so this is the perimeter. So as you can see right here, if you want to change, if you want to calculate and display the perimeter of the pool object, So I'm gonna go perimeter, call the perimeter method. Now if I build it and run it, look, be careful. It's not going to calculate the perimeter based on 5/8. These are the original values, but remember we changed them using set length. So basically what you're going to get is based on 610. So 6 times 2 is 12, 10 times 2 is 20, so the answer is 32. Okay. Now the other method we're going to create is the area, public area. So how do we calculate the area? We multiply the length times width. Okay, so right here, if you want to calculate the area, so you're going to put pool that area. It's going to calculate the area. Remember, not 5/8. 5/8 are the original values. We changed them. If we didn't change them, then we're going to use 8 times 5. But now we have 6 times 10 is 60. Okay. Now finally, we are going to, now if I try to print the object itself, which is pool, what's going to happen? So for example, right here, if I put system out print line pool, what's going to happen? So I'm going to try to build it and run it and see what's going to happen. So if I try to run it, look, I'm going to get that weird number rectangle, which is the class name, and then that's weird thing here. So it doesn't show me anything here. So we need what we call the toString. The toString method is a method that displays the object properly. So we're going to go to the rectangle class, public string toString. So how do you expect, like if you run the object, what do I expect to see? Okay, let's say I want to expect to see the length, the width, the perimeter, and the area. So I can do that. I can put, for example, length, and then I'm going to put the length, okay? And then I'm going to put the width, okay? And then maybe I'm going to start new line. So I'm going to put \n, and then I'm going to put the perimeter. Whatever you put in the toString, that's what you're going to see, what's going to be displayed when you print or display the object. So we're going to put here the perimeter. And finally, we're going to put the area. You can use also \n area, and then put area. So now pay attention here. If I try to run the program now, look, I'm going to build it, no error, and then I'm going to run. I'm not going to see this weird number anymore. I'm going to see whatever I put in the toString. So the length 6 with 10. If you want to put them all in one line, you can do that. Whatever you put in the toString, that's the format you're going to see here. Okay. So this is basically how you create the class. This is just an example, rectangle class, but all the classes follow the same process, the same procedure. Okay. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next lecture.